Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Pascoe, and this video is about the Ayurveda clock. The Ayurveda clock is an understanding of the 24-hour circadian rhythm and how different elements show up at different times of the day. It explains why you feel different in the morning compared to midday and in the afternoon. In this video, I will tell you about the Ayurveda clock so that you understand the elemental disposition that occurs throughout the day. And also, I will tell you about the elemental disposition in the seasons of the year so that you can better align yourself, your natural Prakruti, with your days and your seasons. The reason I offer these videos is because Ayurveda is an ancient holistic healthcare practice that has so many beneficial modern applications. And the clock, the Ayurveda clock, is an absolute gift from the teachings of Ayurveda. I want you to have this information so that you can better align yourself, your natural state, which is called your Prakruti, with the times of day and seasons of the year. Misaligning your natural state, your primal nature, with foods, lifestyle choices, and habits, and that includes how you use your day, the full 24-hour circadian rhythm, and the activities and food choices you make during the seasons. Misalignment of choices with those natural cycles and your natural Prakriti leads to imbalances in mind, body, and emotion. So when you understand these things about Ayurveda, which is a natural self-healing practice, Ayurveda wants you to understand these things so that you can advocate for yourself and make choices that are good for your health. So I'm teaching it so that you can have that information. It's an ancient healthcare practice. It's been around for thousands of years for good reason. It has modern applications. I just simply want to bring this information forward and make it more general so that people have access to it. This video will be beneficial whether you know your Prakriti or not. Your Prakriti is your primal nature. It is the elemental disposition that you came into this world with, and it will never change. Your Prakriti is you. It's why you're different than somebody else. If you don't know your Prakriti, in my introduction to Ayurveda video, I do talk about the Prakriti and give some insights into understanding yours. I also have a link in that video description, also on my website, which you can easily access. I do have a PDF that you can download and self-score to learn your Prakriti. So I do encourage you to do that. If you don't know your Prakriti, if you don't know what your Pitta, Vata, Kapha constitution is, this video is still going to be super useful because you will see how it just applies to your natural state, even if you don't know exactly what that natural state constitution is. Now on to the Ayurveda clock. The Ayurveda clock is a 24-hour circadian rhythm. And have you ever noticed how you feel different at different times of the day? For instance, it's not uncommon around the hours of 2 to 5 p.m. to seek a stimulant, something that's going to give you a pick-me-up. Like you realize you're not focusing very well, you're having a hard time concentrating, those kinds of things. Have you ever noticed how if you slept through your alarm in the morning or you turned it off and went back to sleep, when you do finally wake up, you feel super heavy and groggy and have a really hard time getting activated into your day? Or have you ever noticed how during the fall season you feel more anxious? These are all things that can be explained by the Ayurveda clock with the 24-hour circadian rhythm, but also with the different elements that show up in the seasons of the year, which I'll talk about towards the end of the video. Understanding the Ayurveda clock, this 24-hour circadian rhythm, will help you understand how with your natural disposition, your Prakriti will be affected at different times of the day. And then that will lead to being able to make food choices, lifestyle choices, habit choices during different times of the day to best support your Prakriti, your natural state, so that you can feel better than you've ever felt before. As with the entire understanding of Ayurveda, every living thing is made up of the 5 physical elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So even cycles of 24-hour circadian rhythm or different seasons have these elemental dispositions in different degrees, different kind of concentrations of the different elements. So for the clock, at different times of the day, there's more earth and water. At other times, there's more fire, and at other times, there's more air and space. So we're going to start with the clock in terms of the morning. So we're going to do the first section of the clock, which is from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., and that is Kapha time. Kapha is of earth and water elements. So the energetic disposition of that time is heavy, dense, steady, grounded. Anything that you can think of that are earth and water qualities show more up during Kapha time. So in the morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., and I'll say this now, these are the time parameters on these different elemental dispositions. It's not like the clock strikes 6 and all of a sudden you're just full of earth and water elemental disposition. You'll see kind of how as you switch from Vata time to Kapha time, there's some crossover of the elements and then more in the middle of that block. And of course, we know time changes. And of course, in America, we still do daylight savings time. So we're kind of moving the clock around a little bit. But these are the general times. And when I start talking more about this, you will absolutely see how this shows up. So Kapha time from 6 a.m. to 10. Earth and water, heavy, dense, slow is another thing. So during this time, it is best to set a routine for yourself. You're going to have the most elemental earth and water support to be able to have a steady, grounded, consistent routine. So it's really good to put those kinds of things in this time. Because the elements are of earth and water and have that kind of heavy, slow quality, it's not an ideal time for a heavy, dense meal. I think a lot of times, especially in American culture, we promote kind of a heavy meal at this time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthiest for you, and especially with your Prakruti. If you are of Kapha Prakruti, and remember, a general rule in Ayurveda when understanding this is like increases like and opposites balance. So if you're of a Kapha Prakruti, you have more earth and water of your natural primal nature constitution. And during a Kapha time, it's going to be multiplied. It's going to be exaggerated during that time. You really do not want to have a heavy breakfast. That will add so much more heaviness into your disposition. You will find it very hard to get going in the morning, to find that stimulating nature, to get moving, those kinds of things. So if you are a Vata constitution, you'll probably like the mornings. You'll like how you feel. You'll feel more grounded because Vata is of air. And so in Kapha time, it's very supportive because opposites balance. So when you are of air and space elements of your natural constitution, the earth and water elements of that time of day is going to be really supportive to your constitution. And so Kapha time, probably not an ideal time for a heavy meal. So having something a little bit lighter, and when we talk about the seasons, you'll see how that overlays as well. So choices for that could be something more like oatmeal with some nuts and fruit. It could be, especially if you're Kapha, it might be something like a warm beverage, like a date shake, which is oat milk with dates and spices in there, warming spices. And then you heat it up and you can blend it up. And it's very warm, but it has a little bit of stimulating qualities to it. It is a great time, the Kapha window, to do routine kinds of things because you're going to be supportive in that element. So moving on, the next window, so that's from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. The next window is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and that is Pitta time. Pitta is fire element. And so during that time, you're going to have the most natural fire. So that is good time to learn things, to do your tasks. You will have that kind of fire grinding energy to get work done. It's also because of fire shows up in everything, our lifestyles. So it's also a great time to have your biggest meal because you're going to have the most digestive fire. And that is not uncommon in a lot of cultures to have the biggest meal be the lunch meal, the midday meal. And having that around 12, 1 o'clock is a really beneficial time because you are going to have the most digestive fire. So kind of planning that accordingly, you can have the biggest meal, maybe the most heavy things like if you eat meat, if you eat heavier, dense tofu, anything with more fats and proteins in it is going to best be digested at that time. Also, again, pitta time is good because fire shows up in your mind. And so it's the best time to learn. It's the best time you're going to be able to process information and work with information. And it's pitta time. Now, if you are of pitta constitution, then you have to be mindful of how much fire you want to add into your fire. So be mindful at that time if you're to manage the spices that you're having. So fire spices are like pungent, like garlic and onions and those kinds of things. It could give you heartburn. That would be the fire consequence of having too much at that time. So just be mindful of that. You can digest better, but be mindful of the spices that you have at that time. And again, Vata is probably going to be supported at that time, can handle a heavier meal, probably can handle some more spices at that time because Vata is of air constitution. So those things are just going to be adding more of the fire element in at that time. It's going to be supportive. Moving on to the next window from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. is Vata time. Now, Vata is of air and space. And so at that time, it's why I said, and you probably noticed, it's hard to focus. It lacks earth and water elements, and then the fire is extinguishing. It's going out, it's diminishing. And so that time, it's really hard to sit still. It's hard to stay focused. You feel kind of like just depleted at that time. And so that's a really good time to add in earth and water elements. So having some kind of snack, maybe this is the ideal time for fruit. It's kind of a general rule in Ayurveda. Fruit stands alone, they say. So when you have fruit, you don't want to have other foods with it. You really don't want to combine a lot with fruit because fruit requires different enzymes to digest. And so this is a really good time to have an earth and water food like fruit and simply have that. Have an apple. That would be wonderful at this time. Have also a lot of liquids at this time because of the air and space element. It is very drying and depleting. You don't necessarily need a stimulant like coffee, and sometimes that can be counterproductive, but to have something that nourishes your cells to support yourself during this time. Because it's of natural air and space, it is a really hard time to focus. I always feel bad for teenagers when their schedule has math at this time. Math is best in the morning. Math is best during either Kapha or Pitta time. In Vata time, and if you're a teacher and watching this, you see this. This is probably why you have recess at this time, because that's of the natural elemental disposition here to move. Air and space creates movement. So it's really good for creativity. So if you can put your more creative projects at that time, it would be ideal. If you can have something that's nourishing of earth and water elements at that time would be real supportive. It's a great time if you are home to prepare meal, cook. Do something creative with that. Put some music on. Your body's going to want to move naturally and it's going to be supportive that way. It is difficult to do earth and water type things, which is, systematic things and very structured and high processing things at that time. And then the cycle repeats. So that was from 2 to 6 is the Vata time. And then from 6 to 10, Kapha energy moves back in. You get more earth and water elements. It's a great time to sit down and have a meal, but it's ideal that the meal is not as heavy. And again, in American culture, that's kind of different than what you're typically used to doing. In American culture, we tend to have more of a heavy meal at that time, and that's not ideal for digestion. And so if you have a chance to start to switch that around and put the heavier meal in the middle of the day. And every time I do these, I'm doing this now as a video, but I've given these workshops quite a few times. And of course I do Ayurvedic consultation. And when we're talking about this, I get this. If you're here in the States, our lifestyle is not supportive of this natural alignment, which is why this is important, because we want to make sure if there's something that we can disrupt in our lifestyle, our schedule to be more supportive, then it is recommended that we do that. But also you got to work with what you have. And if it's not an option, it's not an option. Anything that you can do to make yourself more aligned with your lifestyle is going to be beneficial. It's not 100%. It don't have to be 100%. So if there's something you can't change, if family dinner always has meat and potatoes and it's always at 6 p.m., so be it. You know what? If you can add then a digestive spice in there to kind of help move that along so you sleep better, then do that. There's always ways to work with it. So kapha time moves back in, so the steady energy is back. That's why some people can do their homework at that time, or kind of just have a calmer nature, more willing to sit still. A lot of times people watch TV during this time. And because it is the nighttime, it's not the same as the day. The daytime window, you're meant to ramp up to that pitta time. More fire moves in as you get closer to that pitta window. Here, we want to take advantage of this kapha time to wind ourselves down. So kapha time from 6 to 10 p.m., it's a great time to have your bedtime routine. If you do eat a larger meal, make sure you have some digestive spices, maybe a nice spiced milk. I have recipes for these, to have milk with cinnamon and ginger and nutmeg, which is a natural sedative, and a little cardamom, which to help digest that and basically get your system more prepared for sleep. And then we're going to move into the next pitta window, which is from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. This pitta window is also for digestion, but ideally you're at sleep while you do this window. And I can't tell you how important it is. And I know, again, lifestyle, right? You do the best you can to be asleep during this time. If you can get your bedtime routine moved up so that you're in bed by 9:30, so that you're asleep by 10, your mental and emotional health are going to improve. And I'm just going to put a period there. It is absolutely definitive. The people that do not sleep during this window often have mental and emotional health issues, from anxieties to depression to simply just not digesting the events of the day, and then they carry over and they carry a heavier emotional burden. They also feel exhausted when they wake up if they do not sleep during this time. So I know I'm saying a lot of things, and I'll slow down a little bit. Between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., pitta moves in, and what it does is it digests more emotion, more thoughts, more events of the day. And if you're not asleep while this is happening, because your dreams facilitate that, they process a lot of what's going on symbolically. And there's plenty of dream theories out there. You can go look them up. I'm not getting into that right now. But nonetheless, absolutely, you digest your day at this time. And if you're not asleep to do that, you're not going to have it digested properly. Just like not digesting food properly. Emotion needs to be digested properly. So if you can be asleep during that time, your mental emotional health will improve. Absolutely, 100%. So that's what happens during this nighttime pitta window. And then from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., vata moves back in. Vatas of air and space. This is the time, if you have not digested a lot, you will likely pop awake. You will pop awake. The air and space will create a disposition that you will move back into creative thoughts. So you will pop awake and you will wake up with those thoughts that you probably went to bed with. They'll be right there. They'll be present. And they probably are part of what woke you up. If you also had foods that you did not digest properly, again, the digestive, during the air and space element, it's going to move in. It's going to aggravate this time, and you're going to wake up because of food digestive issues as well. The cool thing about this window is the creativity does move back in. And so it is not uncommon for people to wake up during this time, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. to meditate. It is believed that if you meditate during this time, you will have a deeper meditation. Your mind has more free creativity and is not weighed down by the daytime of what the expectations are and lifestyles like. And you can have a really deep meditation. You'll be able to think of things that you hadn't been able to think of during the day in terms of creating. You'll be able to solve problems that way. It's pretty cool. And so for people, as a holistic psychologist, I'm always trying to help people be healthier in mind, body, and spirit. So at this time, if you do pop awake and you can't go back to sleep, rather than fussing and fighting that, simply shift into meditation. Take advantage of it. If you get into a meditative state where you're regulating your thoughts and you're regulating your breathing and you're making sure your body stays relaxed, you're going to either have the benefits of the meditation or you're going to have the benefits of the rest that comes with that level of regulation during a meditation. So it's going to be the equivalent of sleep. You'll then wake up whatever time that is, or get out of bed at whatever time you're supposed to get out of bed, and have some more capacity simply because you meditated. So that is that Vata time. And that takes us to 6 a.m., which is right back into Kapha time. So that's the circadian rhythm of the 24-hour cycle according to Ayurveda clock. There's, of course, lots more information on that, but I'm giving you the introduction today. And now I'm going to shift into the mind, body, life alchemy of the seasons of the year. So same kinds of things, same principles, different elements show up at different seasons of the year. And let's start in spring, where things start. Spring season has a combination of kapha, left over from the winter, and vata, because it's transition. So anything that's moving, anything that's changing has a natural vata element to it. So the kapha nature, the earth and water, everything starts to grow and form and turn green. And that's usually the season, especially in the northern hemisphere, that more rain moves in. So we have more water. We have earth coming back alive and growing again. So this is the season to start stuff. So often in our culture, we're like, New Year's Day, let's go and get some things going for the new year. But you are heavy in kapha time that time. So you are not going to have the elemental disposition to support goals that you set to act on. Spring, or closer to spring at least, is a better time to act on those. So maybe set your goals earlier in the year, but spring, start to put them in motion. You're going to have the creativity of the vata, but you're going to have the stability and the water element to help move into those goals and make them happen, and the steadiness of the earth and water element to establish routine and probably adhere to it for a while before it gets disrupted in late spring. So spring is kapha and vata, and then that kind of transitions over. The vata will still stay because it is a transition season. And then as summer starts coming in, which is pitta time, it'll look more vata and then pitta. So there'll be more fire elements. You'll have more energy. May is a wonderful, energetic month to do things, to run races, to do creative projects, to do those kinds of things. So that's spring. And then summer is pitta. That's pretty obvious. It's the fire season. So you have a higher fire, and what's really important with that is you are going to have more energy. There's more hours in the day to be able to do stuff, but that fire element, especially for a pitta constitution, increases. So pittas, more than any other, you need a siesta. You need to take a nap in the middle of the day, probably in pitta time from 10 to 2, somewhere in there. And if you can't take a nap, please find 15 to 20 minutes that you simply close your eyes. Eyes are a pitta organ in the body. Sight is a fire element sense. And so you want to close your eyes and basically tune out. If you can get yourself in a cool, dark room, fantastic. If you can take a nap, fantastic. If you can do a yoga nidra, fantastic. Do that. And that's yogic sleep. That's a meditation practice that is very restorative, because you will need to restore at that time. You will have good digestion, so you have to be mindful of adding too much spice into your diet in the summer, making sure you're having water with cucumber, mint, those kinds of things. That really is across the board for all constitutions. Kapha is probably going to thrive the most in the summer season. Vata has to be a little bit careful of not getting kind of overstimulated by the heat, but Vata is supported by warm. So that's summer season. And then fall, you move. So again, it's kind of like there's some overlapping times. So fall is Vata season primarily, but the beginning of fall will be Pitta Vata. And so there'll be a lot of hot, dry. So gosh, eat your dates, eat mangoes, eat really juicy, sweet things at that time. Try to establish good routines at that time. That the earth element will support the vata, the air and space that's moving in more and more. Eat more grounding spices, eat more grounding foods. Root vegetables start to move in. Sweet things like pumpkin and squash, zucchinis, those kinds of things really good in this season. And then so fall is vata, so a lot of air and space, which is why it's at the beginning. A lot of times you'll notice that you have more anxiety in the fall. Wind is a is probably, as far as weather goes, the most anxiety provoking. Thunder being a second, because Vata, air and space, is also associated with a sense of sound. So loud noises, which wind can also create a lot of noise, can be very anxiety provoking. So make sure you have nurturing, calming, soothing practices. And then we move into winter. So late fall, some Vata is still present. Then it gets cold and dry. But then the earth, water, and water elements start to move back in, and that's winter. Winter is meant to be winter. We are meant to be wintry in winter. It is not an activated time. It's not an energetic time. And if we can align ourselves with this, we'll feel a lot better. A lot of the times our mental emotional struggles come because we're trying to accomplish something that is absolutely not supported by our Prakruti or by times of day or seasons of the year. So if you're trying to be super active and engaged in the winter, you're going to be fighting. And spring will provide the energy for that. You, of course, can do it. Using a pitta window is going to be most supportive during that time. Kapha time in the morning, you're not going to have very much energy. Kapha time in the evening, you're not going to have very much energy. It's dark, it's cold, it's heavy. It's those kinds of things. And so adjust. Lower your expectations or change your expectations, whatever that might look like for you. Dig into the practice of hygge, which is a Danish practice of bringing comfort and coziness into your life. Increase your social time. Sip tea, sit by candlelight, do all those kinds of things that are going to support you. So that's the calendar. That's another gift from Ayurveda, is to really spell out exactly what's happening so that we can understand this and align ourselves to improve our mental and emotional health. So those are the things I wanted to accomplish in this video. Like I said, I have an introduction to Ayurveda video, which talks a little bit more about your Prakriti, kind of understanding your natural constitution. And I will have more videos that go into specifics, specifically the food and lifestyle things, which is, again, a gift from the Ayurveda understanding to be able to not continue to just fall into the cookie cutter plans that are out there, like you should eat salads. Not if you're Vata in the winter. So you understand more about those kinds of things so that you can help yourself. Thank you for watching this video.